parents really knew I was gay was when I walked in a Gap fashion show in 6th grade, because you can have it all. And the guy that was in charge of the fashion show was like, all right boys, we're gonna need a little extra pizzazz when you get to the end of the runway. So most of the guys like popped their collars or did a little spin. When I walked down the runway, cartwheeled down the runway, I got to the end and did 2 fast little jazz squares and then hit this winning position. Feeling this is the moment when my dad looked at my mom and was just like, Drew's gonna be a dick sucker someday. And oh, how I have blossomed. But I recently moved to New York City, which has been super great. They love the gays there. It's like, gays everywhere. And seriously, they're everywhere. But yeah, I recently moved to New York City, and it's funny, the last time I was in New York City, I actually had some trouble with the police, which is surprising because I'm white. They get us too. But I was dating a guy at the time who had a bit of a drug problem, because I choose danger. And we were driving out of New York City, and this cop car pulls us over. And when he asks for my boyfriend's license and registration, my boyfriend opens the glove compartment, and a grinder falls out. So the cop looks at me and is just like, "Get the fuck out of the car, motherfucker!" and like rips me out and is like, "Put your fucking phone down!" Because I was in the middle of an Instagram and it was peak hours and I wanted a light. And so then he starts asking me questions because he assumes I'm trying to smuggle drugs out of New York City, which was obviously what I was doing. So he's like, "What were you doing when you were in New York City?" And I was like, "Auditioning for the Book of Mormon." And he's like, "What's in your backpack?" And I'm like, "My custom-made tap shoes." So you would think after I say my custom-made tap shoes, which is like arguably the gayest thing that has been said ever, then he'd be like, "All right, we're gonna let this fool go." But instead, he was like, "All right, I'm gonna have to call for some backup." And like, I love the idea of this conversation because he had to call the station and be like, "We're gonna need some backup." And they were like, "What do you got?" And he was like, "2 faggots and a pair of tap shoes." Like, send help. Also, just as a side note, 2 faggots and a pair of tap shoes sounds like an off-Broadway show I'm gonna start writing. So make sure you're on the lookout for that. But then, so these 2 cop cars show up, and they put me in a different cop car, you know, to separate the gays. It stops our sparkle sunshine from working. And this cop starts asking me questions. He's like, "Have you ever been arrested before? Like, where are you from?" And I'm freaking out. I'm like, "Oh my God, like, I'm gonna have a criminal record. Like, I'm obviously not going back to college." Like, but on the forefront of my mind was just like, what is gonna happen to my custom-made tap shoes? And that was a story of white privilege. Fun for the whole family. But like I said, I've been in New York for a bit, and it's been super fun. I love like all of the experiences I've been having. Like the other day, this guy came up to me and my 2 girlfriends, and like he was gonna kind of heckle us. So he goes up to one of my girlfriends and is like, "Hey, why the long face?" And she's like, "All right, like, you know, we're leaving." But before we can go, he then puts his face in my other friend's boobs and is like, "Oh, hello." And I'm thinking, thank you for the one laugh. So I'm thinking in this moment that I'm gonna have to like man up and be like, "Hey," like, which I don't do often, obviously. A rare occasion for me. But I was like, I'm gonna tell this guy off. But before I can say anything, he turns to me and then goes, "And you know what? If I were gay, I'd fuck the shit out of you." And I have never felt so included